I'm Chris Vestal, and this is DC SLA Radio. The following is the audio from Part 2 of the Library Leader Series interview with Blane Dessy, Executive Director of FLICC and Fedlink at the Library of Congress. For more information about DCSLA and our upcoming events, visit our website at www.dc.sla.org.
Welcome to the inaugural podcast of DCSLA's interview series, Library Leaders. Library Leaders is based on a series of programs the Washington, D.C. chapter of SLA held in 2010, in which we ask leaders in our community to sit down with us and share their knowledge and experience with leadership, career development, and the profession in general. The programs were so successful that we've invited the original participants to come back and do it again, this time for a recorded interview that we can share with the SLA membership at large. I'm Mary Talley, President of DCSLA.
And I'm Chris Vestal, the 2011 Communications Secretary for DCSLA.
And we're here today with Blane Dessy, Executive Director of FLICC, Fedlink. And Chris and I feel very fortunate to get to interview Blane again. If you're going to make a movie out of Blane's life and his career, actually, a good title might be Blane's Excellent Adventure. He's had such an interesting and successful career. It seems to us as if he's been on a career-long adventure, culminating in his current position as the Executive Director of FLICC. You see all us, our profession, librarians, as needing to sell what we do continually.
I think you have to be selling it. I think you have to be selling it and promoting it. I think you have to be sort of the spokesmodel for it, and you have to be doing it all the time. I think you have to be very conscious that's what you're doing all the time, and I think you have to look for every single opportunity that you can. I mean, there are many times when I'll be talking to colleagues or staff, and I'll say, well, you should go and have lunch with that person. And they'll say, well, why would I do that? I'm there because in the long run, there's a chance you're going to have some work needing to be done that's going to require that. Maybe not today, maybe not 6 months from now, but sooner or later, your paths are going to cross. So you just need to go out there and say hello. Or call them up and say, I'd love to come and meet you. I've heard such wonderful things about you. Can I have 15 minutes of your time? Find a way to build those relationships, and don't be shy. Again, you can't be shy. You can't be afraid to make cold calls.
Well, you can be shy, but you have to still be able to.
Well, you can be shy. Well, yeah. I mean, again, I tend to. I mean, now when I'm not in my role, when I'm not in my sort of library director role, I'm a very, very shy person. In fact, the funny story about that is I went to one of my college reunions because I got an email to go to a college reunion. I got to the front door of the big reception hall where everyone was milling around having drinks. I just froze in panic. This is only about a year ago. I just froze in panic. I could not go into that room. So I turned around, got my coat from the coat check, and just...
Did you leave?
I left because I was terrified of entering that room. Now, if you had said to me, go into that room as the director and say hello, I would have had no trouble with that. It's a very odd thing that you do. I mean, so it's I don't want to say it's like something you slip on and you slip off, but in a way it is.
I think that's an important message. What you're saying is that we all may be shy, but you still have to be able to go out there and believe in what you're doing and let others know about it.
Well, in fact, people said to me, Blane, you just want us to be actors. And I'm there, you're exactly right. That's exactly what I want. I don't care if you're terrified, if you're shy, if your hands are perspiring. You have to get out there and sell it.
And connect.
And connect. And you might be in a knot inside, but I need you to get out there. Get over that stage fright and do it, And we all have that. I mean, I still get very nervous when I know I'm going to be doing things, but you figure this is my job, right? I'm being paid, and I have a passion to go into this room and make people love libraries. That's my job. That's my role tonight.
It's believing in yourself.
And you say, I can do this. I can go up there and talk to people I've never spoken to before and say, hello, I represent this library, and what can we do for you? Now, afterwards, I think, my God, who was doing that? It was me. So, and again, for me, that's become a sort of a very comfortable, slightly schizophrenic way to do this, I guess. And so I have people who will say to me, I could never be as gregarious as you. I could never be as outgoing as you. And it's like, actually, this is all learned behavior.
That's what I was just thinking. You were saying that you could do this.
You can do this.
Somebody who you just said you can be really shy and not want to enter that room.
Exactly.
You define a role and then you just fulfill it.
Exactly. You say, and you, if you want to think to yourself, I'm playing a role. I'm playing the brilliant, witty library director tonight, and you do it. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure how else. It's when I meet people who say, I can't do that. Oh no, I can't talk to anyone. I'm too shy. I wouldn't know what to say. It's when they sort of give up on themselves and sort of say, well, I'm a librarian, but I have very specific limitations on what I can do. It's like, no, get out of your comfort zone. When I was at Justice, one of the things that I threw people out of their comfort zone about was when we start the television program. And I sat down with the staff and I said, we're going to do a television program. And my staff said, what do you mean? I said, you're going to write scripts, you're going to go on camera, and you're going to do a television program. And they said, we can't do that. We've never been in front of a camera. We have no idea what to do. What are we going to do? I mean, they just panicked. And I said, trust me, it's going to be fun. All right? Now, what I did compromise on was I didn't make them do it live. I really wanted them to do it live television.
That's stressful.
In front of a studio audience?
Well, no, in front of an audience, in front of a group of, they were doing training.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and filming.
And filming it. But we negotiated on they could do it in a studio. But then the librarians became so comfortable with it, and they got to write scripts, and they would have rehearsals, and they would critique each other, and then they would talk about their wardrobe choices, and then how to put on makeup so you don't get reflection on.
Right.
I mean, it was just like I had all these little stars wandering around. And these were people a few months before who said they would never do that. They could never get in front of a camera. They could never read from a teleprompter. They could never do any of this. And boy, they all got it. So it's believing in yourself. It's believing in the fact that you can be more than you think you are. Maybe that's the bottom line. And you tell that to your children too, right?
A good boss is going to support you.
And as I tell my students, I will push you out of your comfort zone, but I will not let you fail. Right? I mean, I might let you stumble, and I might let you get a few scrapes along the way, but I guarantee you, I will not let you fail. So, I want you to go out there, and don't worry, I have my eye on you. And if it gets too hairy, I'll be there to support you. So.
I'm going to turn the other half of this over to Chris, so that
we sort of wandered all over the professional landscape.
So much. It's more fun this way.
Okay, well, if you're happy, I'm happy.
I'm sticking around a little bit, but I'm going to let Chris because I want him to be able to.
Okay. Well, we talked about your first library director position, and then we talked about some lessons you learned in Oklahoma. So I'm just kind of wondering, what sort of lessons have you learned since you've been here at FLICC now?
One of the lessons that I've learned here at FLICC, well, I've learned many, but I suppose the most obvious one for me was it made me realize again how different organizations and different libraries have very different cultures. I had been at the Department of Justice for a long time, which was very much a law enforcement type of culture. And I thought I would have a hard time adjusting to that, but I didn't really. I don't know why, but it made sense to me. Coming to the Library of Congress, it's much more like an academic institution. So the culture is very different. And so I keep learning again. every situation you're in, every professional position you're going to take, it's not just a different job, it's a different culture. It's a different way of working and a different way of getting things done. So that's one of the big lessons I've learned. What else have I learned? I think what I've learned again is people want leadership. When I came here, I knew I wanted to have this job, and I knew that I wanted to make some sort of positive change, but I wasn't sure to what extent I wanted to make change, nor how quickly I wanted to make that change. But I have proposed some fairly radical changes for this organization, and people have said, "Yes, you're right." That's what I mean. People wanted someone to get up there and say something. People wanted someone to rock the boat a little bit. So it reaffirmed for me the fact that if you have reasonable ideas and you're committed to them, and you tell people that you're going to somehow take care of them, that they're going to be heard, they will have a role in this, they will be fully part of the process. Most people say, yes, we want that. And it's been really gratifying to me that we've done some fairly radical things in the past year, and everyone has been supportive. I haven't had a single negative vote
So you're
yet.
really good at getting buy-in. Not good, but you know how to.
Well, I think I am good at getting buy-in.
Important.
It's very important. If you want to be a success as a leader, then you have to know how to get buy-in. Now, there are times when, even if you don't get buy-in, you still have to proceed. I mean, that's a different conversation, right? Sometimes you have to fly in the face of obstacles, right? But for the most part, you do want that buy-in because you want because you're going to be relying on all these people to really do the heavy lifting. Right? I'm the one who has the vision, and I can organize the pieces. But when it comes down to the day-to-day getting the work out, it's these very people. So I can't afford to alienate them. I can't afford to have them become disenchanted with where we're going because it's going to fall apart.
So how do you get that buy-in, especially when you're proposing something new that they haven't thought of or ever done before?
I think you start very gently, and I think you start by doing a lot of listening. And I think, at least for me, I start by sort of bringing these issues to the table in a fairly non-threatening way. And for example, we'll be talking, and I'll say, I've been thinking about this, and here's an idea that I have. Let's talk about that. And so I don't, what's that expression? You run it up the flagpole to see. Well, in a way, you're running things up the flagpole. You don't want to come in one day and say, I've decreed that we're doing this. You get that buy-in by sort of introducing the ideas, letting people sleep on it, answering questions, recognizing when they have contributions to make that will make your idea an even better one. Because sometimes people say, well, we could do that, but if you did it like this, it'll be, you're right. Chris, that was a wonderful idea, right? So you sort of seduce them into going along with you. And then you do it very methodically, I think, and sometimes you can do it faster, depending on where that organization is, and sometimes you have to be much slower about it. And again, one of the things that as a leader, you have to be very sensitive as to where your organization is in that chain. Right? Is this an organization that's desperate for change? Or is this an organization that really is going to need to be massaged into changing? And then as a leader, you kind of go from there. And you say, okay, I would love to do this in 2 weeks, but I can see it's going to take more like a year. Or I thought it would take a year for people to come around to my way of thinking, but boy, after they all just jumped on the bandwagon this morning at the staff meeting. So off we go. we're at the races. So you just you're always sort of taking the temperature of the organization and seeing when do you put your foot on the gas and when do you take your foot off the gas, right? But you never lose sight of the fact that you're trying to get someplace. You never just turn the car off. Sometimes you just let on the pedal a little bit.
You were talking earlier about your leadership style. It sounds kind of like you'll challenge people in unexpected ways to help them grow and help foster more creativity. What kind of feedback have you gotten from people that you have supervised with that kind of style?
For the most part, it's been very positive. And again, it's because most of what I ask people to do are things that I've already done. For example, like the television. I've been on television. I've been in front of cameras. And so I don't make people do things that are so crazy they're beyond comprehension. So when people say, we can never do a television show, I would say, look, guys, I've done it. If I can do it, anyone can do it. And we just start talking about it. And I offer to help them. And I offer to give them feedback. And I always say to them, you are not, and they'll say, what if this is a big mess? Right? We always want to jump to that worst conclusion. What if this is a huge, it's not going to be a mess. We are going to work hard so it's not a mess. And if I need to do what I need to, you need me to help you save something, I'm going to do that. So you're not going to fail.
So there's a lot of challenging and a lot of coaching. There's
a lot of challenging and a lot of support. It's like, I want you to really go out of your comfort zone, but I also want you to know that I'm here. And that if you're that uncomfortable, come and talk to me. If we need to make some revisions, come and talk to me. That isn't going to bother me as much as you just, putting your head in the sand and saying, I'm not going to do it. Yeah, because I think people need to be stretched. I think as librarians, and we were talking about other roles for librarians, right? I think we all have to do that stretching. The role of librarians is changing, and if you're not willing to sort of do some of these out of the ordinary things, then you'll never really know how far you can go.
What do you think the most important out of the ordinary kind of stretch for a mid-career professional would be?
I think having opportunities, I think there are several things that would be good stretches for people. One is, I think, some really good project management training or being charged to plan major projects and see them through to a successful completion is one thing. I think anything having to do with public speaking, public relations, liaison work, sales, because in some ways what we do is sales, right? We're trying to get people to see the value in what we have for them, so it's sales. I think that sort of thing really
sounds like a lot of communication.
A lot of communication. And another thing that I really stress to people is writing. Because writing is so critical. And I always encourage young librarians to write for the literature. Because not only is it a good discipline to know how to write, but it also gets your name out there. Mm-hmm. And I know people say, well, I don't like to write, or I don't know what I would write about. It's like, write. even if you only start with letters to the editor, you read, SLA Spectrum. Even if it's only a letter to the editor saying, I read this article and here, just start somewhere. You don't have to write a 300-page treatise. Start by writing letters to the editor. Start by writing some columns. Put yourself out there in the profession through public presentations, through writing and things like that. And because I think there are a lot of really, really talented people who hide their light under a bushel. The people, they don't get the recognition they deserve because they're too shy to do that little bit of showing off. Right? It's like, don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid to get your name out there in the public. Don't be afraid to go up and get on that stage and say something, because that's how it's going to stretch you, but it's also going to expand your network. and give you opportunities that you might not have had otherwise. So those are some things I would do. If you're a mid-level, mid-career librarian, you've got your technical skills down, right?
It's really easy to feel boxed in, I would imagine.
And it's very easy to feel boxed in. And again, when you're talking about management and leadership, there's that point in your career where you leave your technical skills behind. Because that's really not what you're not the cataloger anymore. You're not the database manager anymore. Now you're moving up into sort of the human and conceptual skills, right? And that's all about communication and marketing and team building and all that sort of stuff. So just to not beat this point too, I would say to mid-career librarians, think about ways that you can begin to start moving out of that purely technical job and into more of that conceptual communications, human collaboration role. And a big way to do that is through meeting and greeting, public speaking, and writing. And volunteering for your professional association. I'll keep plugging SLA. You need to get involved with DCSLA and really make a name for yourself in the community and in the national organization as well.
Did you have any other questions, Mary?
I neglected to ask you about FLICC and Fedlink, and I think that exactly what you're doing here would be interesting.
Okay. FLICC Fedlink is a part of the Library of Congress. Sometimes people don't realize that. And in some ways it's two organizations, and in some ways it's one organization. FLICC is the Federal Library and Information Center Committee. That was established back in the 60s as a way for federal librarians to come together to discuss professional issues and talk about potential policies for federal libraries. So it was really meant to be almost like a think tank for federal librarians. And it offered training. However, several years later, it was decided that there should be a new service provided by this organization, and that should be in the area of federal procurement and acquisitions. So that was created as FedLink, the Federal Library and Information Network, which some people will describe as the business subsidiary of FLICC. Okay, so you've got FLICC, which is meant to be this policy level, cerebral group of people, and then you've got the sort of the business FedLink, which is really about money and buying goods and services for federal libraries. Okay.
That makes sense.
All well, and it makes sense until you try to explain it, and then people say to me, "Oh, you work at FLICC, no FedLink, or you're at Fed," and it's very hard to explain to people. Or you spend the first 20 minutes meeting people explaining what these things are. So one of the big changes we're doing is we're abolishing FLICC. We are rebranding everything under the FedLink name because FedLink is actually statutorily authorized. FLICC is a creation of the Librarian of Congress. Right? So it exists only as long as the Library of Congress wants it to. FedLink, which is the business subsidiary, is actually based in statute. And when you talk to people in the federal government, FedLink is a better known name, especially in the procurement community. Mm-hmm. And so when I looked at the FedLink statute, it was written broadly enough to include everything that FLICC was doing. So I suggest, one of my first ideas was, we're going to kill FLICC. And everything is going to
get a reaction.
That got a reaction. What do you mean? It's been here since 1965. You can't kill it. And I said, we're not killing it. It's going to be here doing what it does. We're just rebranding it under one name so that it's cleaner.
Much simpler, yeah.
That way you can just say, I'm the director of FedLink, and here's what we do. So one of the things that we do with FLICC, we do a lot of training, we do a lot of programming, we do a lot of professional development for the Federal Library and Information Center community. FedLink, which is the procurement branch is where we establish government-wide contracts that federal agencies and the Library and the District of Columbia can ride to buy goods and services.
It's not a pooled fund.
It can be. So we establish contracts with vendors, for example, let's say Westlaw. And then agencies, rather than having to do separate procurements, which can take a long time in the federal government, can simply come to us and use our contract vehicle to procure that good and service, or goods or service. In some cases, the agencies will give us the money directly, and we will take their money and do all of their accounting for them. So we also have a very robust sort of financial office. Other offices want to do all their own work, but simply use our contract to get the government discount. So our customers can buy in at various levels. What's interesting is that in fiscal year 11, which just ended, using our contracts, we bought $134 million worth of information resources for the government. Right? I mean, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
So people think, yes, we're a small business, but we did $134 million worth of business last year for the federal government. And we want to grow that. Okay. Because, going back to our legislation, it doesn't limit us to libraries and information centers. It says we can serve any federal agency, any part of any federal agency, and the District of Columbia. So I'm thinking strategically. So in meeting with my staff, and this is how, you introduce ideas. I've said, if you look at what we're doing and the work we do for the libraries and information centers, we've sort of saturated the market. We've gotten about as much of that library market as we're going to get. But we're a business. And there's a lot of information being purchased outside of libraries and information centers. Right? So that's our new market. So
it's everything.
Is everything. Is everything.
Well, everything information related.
Well, what we did, and so the first question is, well, how big is that market? Okay, you say you do $134 million a year just in the library niche. But what's the federal government spending on information resources? So we did a lot of research, painstaking research, and we found out in an average year, the federal government spends between $400 and $500 million on information resources. Right? So I have $135 million of that. My goal is to get that other $270 million. So we're doing a lot with strategic sourcing. We're working with OMB and GSA to be designated as the executive agent for information resources.
How exciting!
It's very exciting. So we're abolishing FLICC. We're doing a lot of strategic planning. We're doing a lot of strategic sourcing. We just did a brand new federal library directory, which is now online. If you go to FLICC, our webpage, you can see it. It's, for the first time, the directory is global, because there are federal libraries globally, and you can search it geospatially.
Oh, no, I didn't go into it. Okay.
So you can search medical libraries, and it'll show you all the federal medical libraries around the world.
Oh,
and then you can click on it. It'll click on it and it'll tell you the name of the library and the address and things like that. And then if you click on map, it links into Google Maps. So you can actually see the map.
Is there an iPhone app for it?
No, there's no iPhone app for it. So we're very proud of that. We did the strategic sourcing study. We've come up with new federal library competencies. So we've had a very, very busy 12 months.
Wow. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, so it's been a very busy 12 months. And so that's what I'm doing now.
Potentially, you can save the government, I would think, a good deal of money as well, right?
Right.
If you're sourcing, if you can get...
Well, through research that we've done, we can save an agency or an office generally 20% on the purchase price. And given the complexity of the federal procurement process, we estimate we can save a customer 80% of the procurement time.
Ooh.
Wow.
That's a lot.
Wow.
So we can, if you were thinking this was going to be a 4-week process, we can strip that down to about a 1-week process. If you thought you were going to pay $100,000, we can probably get it for you for $80,000. So now that varies,
Right.
but so we're talking averages here. But we can
That's a
save
big
you.
incentive.
We can save you 20% of the cost and 80% of the time. So yes, so we've got all of our marketing stuff. We're really reaching out to the procurement officials. In addition to being at library conferences, we're now going to contracting conferences and things like that.
You say you're going to a contracting conference?
Yes, the National Contract Managers Association conference is in early November here in Bethesda. So we will be exhibiting there because it's important for us to continue to talk to librarians and information specialists. But now we need to talk to procurement officials who may never have heard of FedLink, but who may be buying information resources. They might be buying Westlaw or Lexis or EBSCO or Elsevier for an office that has nothing to do with the library. And they could use us.
Right. This makes so much sense.
But they don't know we exist. So we're trying to reach, not only are we trying to reach out more to libraries, but we're also trying to reach out to other constituencies in the federal government. So we have very ambitious plans for the next few years.
Sounds like an exciting place to be.
It's exhausting. Can I tell you, it's exhausting.
A very exciting place to be.
It is.
How big is your staff?
We have about 40 people. The librarians are the minority. We actually have more finance people and contracting people on staff than we do professional librarians, because that's our stock in trade.
Right. The contracting.
We have the librarians to really provide a lot of technical expertise. People come to us and say, I want to digitize my collection, but they don't know the first thing about digitization. So we have staff who can walk them through those technical issues, give them advice, and then they can use one of our contracts to get it done. So we add value in that sense. But the librarians are a small percentage of the staff. Most of our staff are involved with accounts receivable, accounts payable, and contracting.
Would be huge.
It's huge, yes.
Are you still, once you roll this all together, will you still be doing the training for the, or is that going to be, will that shrink? Or?
Oh, no. We're more committed to training than ever. In fact, one of the changes when I got here was to look at our training program and to see where was it good, where was it bad. And we did a lot of training. If you're familiar with FLICC, Fedlink at all, there's a lot of training that goes on. My concern with the training was not the quantity or the quality. It was the fact that we were missing a larger curricular framework. There was a lot of training, but I kept saying, well, what does this add up to?
Right.
It's like we're throwing stuff at a wall.
Right.
But where's this taking anyone? Or where's it taking us? Which was why I was so interested in getting the competencies done, because now we're using the competencies as the curriculum base. And now all of our training is being built off of those competencies. So that when you look at one of our courses, it'll say this meets competency number X, whatever. So that we can see that the training adds up to something, that it's not rooted in just this sounds like fun, let's do it. It's based upon a well thought out structure of professional skills, and here's how we're helping you achieve those skills through this training that we're doing. So we're trying to be much more thoughtful about the kind of training that we offer. So we'll be offering as much training. We've just purchased a new online learning system so that we can go national. We can do it all electronically. So we'll be doing more of that. And we're looking for other opportunities to take training off-site, because one of the biggest criticisms we get from the federal library community is that it's great if you're here, because you can just come up from your office. If you're in Dallas, it's much harder. So we're also looking for partners. There are other library consortia out there. Can we partner with them to offer free or discounted programs to the federal librarians in that geographic area? So we're looking at all sorts of different options to really expand our training. So yes, we'll still be doing training. One of my goals is to establish a research agenda for federal libraries so that we can begin to look at the big issues affecting federal libraries. Do they have because the question is, do they have a future? Right. Are they getting bigger? Are they being closed? Are they being consolidated? And many federal librarians are nervous.
Mm-hmm. Many librarians are nervous. And so I don't necessarily want to say we're doing this because librarians are nervous, because I think that sends a message that we're running scared. I would much rather say we know there are issues and challenges facing us. Let's construct some sort of a research agenda or an action agenda to address those issues so that we can make informed decisions about what's really going on.
So you can be future ready?
So we can be future ready. Yeah, thank you for that segue. Yes, so that we can be future ready. Because it is going to change. And we don't know what that change is going to be, but I think this organization can kind of help pull that information together, do the kind of research that needs to be done, provide the kind of training that's going to keep people future ready and competent, and work it that way. So I think we're ready. I think we can face any challenge that comes our way. But I think we have to be creative and methodical at the same time in how we do it.
How exciting.
Sure.
Thank you for listening to DCSLA Radio. For more information about the chapter and how you can get involved, visit our website at www.dc.sla.org.